Hello friends, welcome to the teaching approach series. This is video number 2, which focuses upon the multisensory approaches of teaching children with intellectual disability. So multisensory, you all know, that is when senses more than 2 are used to teach children with intellectual disability. It is called as a multisensory approach. So here in this multisensory approach to teach children with intellectual disability, we are going to focus about VAKT approach and Orton and Gillingham approach. So let's first discuss about what is a VAKT approach. So VAKT approach is a multisensory approach which focuses upon visual, auditory, kinesthetic and tactile sense to make the students learn best when information is presented in different modalities. So here it means that when information is presented to the students with different modality, that is visually, auditorily, and making the child to do that, it will make the student to learn best and to make the student to retain the concepts for a longer period of time. This is what is defined by Mercer and Mercer in the year 1933, redefined by Murphy in the year 1997. So here, the belief of this VAKT approach is students can learn a new concept best when it is taught using the 4 modalities. So here in VAKT, V stands for visual. Visual is learning by seeing images and visuals. A stands for auditory. Auditory learning happens through language, hearing and reading. Then K stands for learning through doing and moving or manipulating with the object or the things around the person or in the environment. T stands for tactile. That is, learning happens through hands. That is by touching, by moving the hands, or the feel experienced through touch. So by using all these senses, if a child starts, the learning becomes easier for the child and it will be very meaningful and interesting. So it is again presented like what is VAKT. So see, visual, auditory is verbal, that is visual, see it, say it or verbally, hear it auditorily, then write it using tactile or kinesthetic. So if a thing is taught to a child using these modality, then learning will be retained and will be interesting and meaningful for the child. So the child is seeing an object, like say about it, hear about it auditorily and manipulates it or writes it so that it will be taken to the the information is processed in the brain in all these ways which will enhance the learning of the child. So this is very critical for students to improve their memory. So it's very good that students are able to verbalize a word, so they can reproduce it or spell it as they hear it, and will be able to write it at a later period of time. So if a word is practiced through this methodology, it will be helpful for the child to learn and to retain for a longer period of time. So here this VAKT approach focuses upon teaching of academics, particularly language and the academic skills to children with developmental delays. So in this VAKT approach, it was first figured out by Grace Maxwell Fernald in the year 1950, and Madam is an educational psychologist and influential figure in the early 20th century literacy education. Madam established the first clinic for remedial instruction in the year 1921 at the University of California, Los Angeles. So she focused upon kinesthetic spelling and reading method, which prompted the struggling students with academics to learn the words. So the popular kinesthetic method anchors modern instruction in the area of special education and remedial reading of nowadays. See, the VAKT method is visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile method. But the the groundwork of this method and the method which is practiced nowadays are all based upon Madam's work of this VAKT approach. So here, Fernald says that incorporating physical with auditory, verbal, and visual elements of reading instruction will enhance the multisensory imaginary thing, which will continue to guide the educator, and the educators of nowadays are following this methodology in remedial teaching for the students who struggle with their reading. So Fernald's VAKT method proposed in the year 1943 has 9 steps. So here, while teaching word to a child who has difficulty with learning the words, the step 1 is the learner will be asked to suggest a word which he or she wishes to learn. Step 2 will be the teacher will write the word in large handwriting so that the child will be able to visualize it. So, while writing, the teacher will orally tell out the word in the natural way as it is written. So, apple, apple. So, like that, they will, like as and when they write the letters, they will also spell that. Step 3 is the learner traces the word with his or her finger while speaking the whole word, and the child will be very careful to begin and end speech and writing at the same time. So here, in the step 2, the teacher models how to write a word, and while writing, she will also speak out the word. In step 3, the learner will be tracing the word written by the teacher, or will be tracing a model word given by the teacher, and while tracing upon the word, like the word will have 2 or 3 letters, is it not? So while moving around each letter, the child has to speak out that, and at the same time the child has to be very careful that speaking and tracing goes along with each other. Then step 4 is the learner does this as often as is needed until the that particular learner feels or gets confident that she has learned that, she or he has learned that. Then step 5 is the learner then visualizes it, traces it in the air with his or her finger. So in the earlier step, the learner was tracing on the word, but in the step 5, the learner visualizes the word, but the learner does not traces on the word. He or she traces the word on the air while spelling out the word. Then step 6, the learner turns the word card over, takes another piece of paper and tries to write the word from memory. Writing and the speaking goes at the same time. So here the child now is not looking at the word, either from the board or from a model. Simply a word card will be given to the learner. The learner will look at the word card, then turn that word card upside down and will write the same word on the different paper. So here also while writing, the learner will be very constant that, or very careful that like the word is spelt while writing. Then later on, after completing this writing in step 7, the learner will compare his version of the word written on the paper with the original model in the word card. Then in step 8, in extraordinary cases, even after this, if a learner struggles in learning a word, a tray may be filled with moist sand. The child may be urged to trace the word in the sand. So, to give a tactile feeling, a kinesthetic feeling to reach the brain of the word. So, whomever or whichever learner finds difficult to follow this 7 step, an extra thing will be given, that is tracing on the sand. Then in step 9, the words taught in this way should be reviewed daily in a short list with other words. So these are the 9 steps which has to be followed in teaching words to children who struggle with their learning of words. The struggle may be like keeping the word in memory or spelling the word or whatever it may be. So these are the 9 steps which has to be followed by a teacher to make the student learn a word. So then comes Orton-Gillingham approach. So till now we have discussed about VAKT approach and Fernald's way of teaching academics and the words. So here also Orton and Gillingham approach supports a learner who struggles with reading and writing. So it is a direct, explicit, multisensory, structured, sequential, diagnostic and prescriptive way to teach literacy when reading, writing and spelling does not come easily to individuals such as those with developmental delays. So this is a direct method, multisensory based method, structure method, which diagnoses the difficulty of the student and prescribes ways and strategies to teach reading, writing and spelling. So it is most popularly understood and practiced as an approach. So Orton-Gillingham approach is not a method. It is an approach. It is a program that we have to be very clear of. So what is Orton-Gillingham approach? So again, it is emphasized that it is an instructional approach and not a curriculum designed to be used with the students who have difficulty with reading, spelling and writing. And it has its root in 2 areas, that is medical and educational. So the medical part was contributed by Dr. Samuel Terry Orton, and educational part was contributed by Dr. Anna Gillingham, a talented educator and psychologist. So both of them contributed to the development of this approach, and this is called as Orton-Gillingham approach. So here, see, Orton-Gillingham uses direct instruction with what is to be learned, why that has to be learned, and how that has to be learned. So what, why, and how of learning is addressed to. And the instruction employs all learning pathways, that is seeing, hearing, feeling, and awareness of motion. So seeing, visual, hearing, auditory, feeling, tactile, or kinesthetic. Then awareness of motion is kinesthetic, like doing. So writing in air, like that. And that is used simultaneously in order to enhance the memory and learning. And here in this method, reading, writing and spelling are integrated. They are not taught separately. They are taught as a whole. Then instruction follows the logical order of English language, beginning with the most basic elements and moving on to complex material. That is, learning is based on, or instruction is based on simple to complex aspect of the language. Then concepts are systematically reviewed and practiced until the learner is mastered, and based on that, new material is layered upon and connected to what has been previously learned. Then teaching plans are individualized to a learner and based on the careful assessment of each student's need, as the learners are unique in their needs, and the children with developmental delay will have unique need. Then when students experience success and positive reinforcement, their self-confidence and motivation will naturally increase. See, this picture will show you how that method is being implemented in a clear way. See, listen to writing, seeing to reading and speaking, and playing to remember things. So all the modalities are used simultaneously to make the learner to read, write and spell a word. So Orton-Gillingham approach is most often associated with one-to-one teacher-student instructional model, and it focuses upon the needs of individual student. Later on, that can be extended to small group instruction, and this can be used in classrooms also. And here in this method, reading, spelling and writing difficulties have been the dominant focus, and it is being successfully adapted for use with students who exhibit difficulty with mathematics also. So here Orton-Gillingham practitioners design lessons and materials to work with the students at the level they present to the level of the learner. Instructions and new materials are being introduced based on the individual strength and the weakness of the student, and it will not be same for all the students in the classroom if it is practiced in the classroom. So to sum up with, Orton-Gillingham approach is a personalized approach which repeats and has a structured methodology of teaching, approach of teaching. It is cumulative of reading, writing and spelling based upon the multisensory aspects, and stresses upon the phonemic awareness among the students. So the multisensory instruction, it can be either a VAKT approach or ONG approach. It focuses upon explicit instruction, direct, cumulative and intensive, which focus upon the structure of the language, which make uses of visual, auditory and kinesthetic or tactile modality to make the student read, write and spell a word which is structured, broken down into a sensible manner, gain integrated, which has a meaning. So because of all these aspects, child who has difficulty with academics or language or difficulty with the learning words create or develop phonological awareness, learn to decode, develop fluency and learn to encode also based on the morphological awareness. So here all the aspects of the language is taken into consideration. The children is taught to decode, develop fluency and encode the word. So in this way, multisensory instruction helps multisensory instruction, specifically VAKT method and Orton-Gillingham method, helps children with developmental delay or children with intellectual disability to progress through their academic learning.